When the first downpour began a few weeks ago, residents of Chennai were ecstatic. This was an end to a long period of blistering heat. But in just 2 weeks, their happiness would turn into fear. They would beg the rain gods for mercy. The same rain which had brought hope, this time wreaked havoc, submerging the city in neck-deep water. Marooning entire localities, destroying homes, killing hundreds of people in its wake. Just as Chennai had begun to get back to normal after massive rainfall and flooding in the first half of November. And yet, this tragedy isn't Chennai's alone. A decade ago, it took just 24 hours in July for a cloudburst to bring Mumbai, the financial capital of India, to be brought down to its knees. The deluge and its aftermath, landslides and outbreak of diseases claimed 698 lives. The casualty list also included 24,000 animal carcasses, 20,000 damaged cars, 2,500 buses and more than 1 lakh houses. Mumbai and Chennai are but two examples of the destructions that floods have caused in urban cities. Srinagar hasn't yet completely emerged from the destruction of last year. As Jhelum broke its bank, it left 300 people dead and damaged over 2.5 lakh structures in the valley. While each of these cities suffered irreplaceable losses caused by natural disaster, each one of these tragedies was preventable, or at least minimized to a great degree.
If I can show you, this is Iran's road, which is completely flooded. We are standing on the bridge. This is the Tamil Nadu's office road, which is completely inundated, and the road adjacent to this is completely submerged. Vehicles are unable to move on. I am on the Nandanam flyover, which connects Kotrapuram and Annasale, which is one of the busiest bridges ever. But today, this particular bridge is used as a parking lot for people living in the nearby areas, as most of the areas have been submerged in water, so they have parked their vehicles here. We are on the Kotrapuram bridge, which is completely cut off because of the heavy rains. This particular road connects main arterial junctions where people from Mylapore, Poise Garden have to take this route to reach airport and also Gindi. And this is just another route to reach Adyar, which is one of the shortest routes. And now water has reached up to second floor of their houses, because of which the NDRF has been pressed into service.
In just 2 weeks, Chennai received over 1,000 millimeters of rainfall. In order to maintain the balance, excess water from the Chembarambakam reservoir was released into the Adyar river to prevent an overflow. The river could not contain the water. Its depth and width had shrunk over the years due to rapid urbanization and encroachments. The result? A mass-scale catastrophe. Dr. Hanspal, an expert anesthesiologist at the Madras Institute of Orthopedics and Traumatology, was at the hospital when water began pouring in at his residence.
I thought I will stay back to the hospital. In the night I contacted my family. They say they are there, water level is rising. And then my wife informed some compound wall is collapsing, water is coming very heavily. And morning everything was just like a trap, very heavy, flooded situation everywhere. So then no contact. What happened to my family? Just that day on Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock, I had a last contact with my family. And then she was requesting me for rescue, but there was no communication from my side also. I could not contact anybody.
He kept on working at the hospital's operation theatre. While his family was evacuated, his house still remains submerged.
पहली बार हम लोग यहाँ रह रहे हैं 15 साल से 15 साल में पहली बार देखा है कि इतना पानी आया है और वो पानी निकल ही नहीं रहा है.
It was only after the floods that Mumbai woke up to the fact that thick slush-filled stench emanating rivulet, Mithi, which stretches from Powai to Mahim Creek, was once a river that flowed out into the Arabian Sea.
पानी बारिश गिरता है सब पानी चारों तरफ पानी भर जाता. माँ पालिका तो कुछ सफाई नहीं करवाती है इसकी, खाली बोलते हैं सफा करते हैं. गंदगी से पूरा कचरा, अभी आप देख रहे हैं ना कचरा कितना है भरा है.
Like Adyar in Chennai, Mithi too remains lined with encroachments.
वापस आएगा तो पूरा भारत नगर ही डूब जाएगा, बह के चले जाएगा.
The effects of incessant rainfall, which began on September the 2nd, 2014 in Srinagar, can still be felt. Some remember all that they lost in the floods last year.
बाढ़ एक मिनट में एक फुट बढ़ जाता था. तब हम मकान में दूसरे मकान में हमसायों के मकान में शिफ्ट किया. वहाँ पर शिफ्ट करके हमने देखा कि अपना लोगों के मकान अब दिन के 3 बजे तक गिरने लगे. तो हमारा मकान भी पूरा बह गया. एक कागज का टुकड़ा भी नहीं निकाला हमने, कुछ भी नहीं निकाला. दूसरे मकान में देखते देखते तो सारा कुछ मकान बह गया.
A heavy rainfall in the region led to the Jhelum and the Chenab to flow beyond their danger marks. The excess water from the river was released into the flood channels, most of which were encroached upon. Jhelum in itself wasn't dredged in time to maintain its depth. Crucial flood warnings were ignored.
मैं कह रहा हूँ हमारे इर्द गिर्द कम से कम जहाँ हमारे घर से नजर पड़ती है तकरीबन 40-50 मकान को नजर पड़ती है. मेरे आंखों के सामने कम से कम 18-19 मकान गिर गए.
Almost all major cities in India have experienced catastrophic floods in the last 15 years. Delhi in 2002, 2003 and 2010, Kolkata in 2007, Hyderabad in 2000, Mumbai in 2005, Srinagar in 2014, Chennai in 2005 and 2015. Far away in Paris, the world may be discussing the climate change, a factor which is often used to explain the regular flooding of urban cities in India. Another key reason, often buried under piles of red tape, and perhaps the most significant of the two, is the unplanned development of our mega cities.
What you could have prevented, many would say, is the manner in which construction has come up in the place across Chennai. You are dependent on water bodies, whether it's the river, whether it's the lakes, and on those water bodies in the last 10 years or so, construction has come up without any control. We are told there are at least 1,500 illegal buildings in Chennai alone. So there is a huge crisis which is also man-made. And many of these are the buildings which have been the worst affected.
I must clarify that the areas that you referred to were joined with Chennai only just about 4 years ago. These used to be traditionally under village panchayats and smaller towns. Yes, in those areas, some of the areas perhaps enforcement was an issue. It's a legacy issue. Now that those buildings are under the Chennai Corporation's limits, of course there is greater supervision on such kind of activity. But again, I would like to say not all buildings can be deemed to be illegal. A lot of them have taken permission from the Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority. But what perhaps has been a failure over the past few decades is that without actually building adequate drainage systems,
that's exactly what
developments have happened.
Chennai saw its wettest spell since 1918. The problem was compounded with the fact that these rains happened over a very short period of time. The fast developing suburbs of the city, which continue to grow unchecked, have barely any stormwater drains to boast of, while those in the city also double as carriers of sewage waste. As a result, the rainwater overflew into catchment areas, submerging the entire city, engulfing lives. Before each monsoon, Chennai Corporation carries out routine maintenance work of clogged drains, desilts them and claims it is ready for the rain onslaught. Every rain that floods the city has another story to tell.
Since 2005, there has been a Chennai Master Plan 2008, development regulations as part of the Master Plan, and City Development Plan and Disaster Management Plan. All are there, came after 2005. Yet, in 2015, we have a disaster in disaster management. Why? Means none of these plans have been implemented on the ground.
The result is an avoidable disaster. The conversion of Chennai's original wetlands into commercial land has been responsible for a large-scale flooding of the area.
Because of the violation of the building rules and regulations and master plan, all the natural drain has been choked. There is no natural flow of water at all. When the natural flow is choked, even if you have the best of man-made stormwater drain, they can't take the water.
Amazing rescue.
A simple law enforcement would have saved many lives.
In the month of September 2014, it was this mighty river Jhelum which actually took an ugly turn for people living in the city of Srinagar. It was the water that overflew from this river which virtually inundated more than half of the city. And for most of the people, there were two major reasons that perhaps led to that situation. One, the lack of interest by successive governments in managing this river, and also the fact that there has been massive urbanization of areas along the banks of river Jhelum.
Earlier this year, Srinagar faced another flood scare. Global climate change led to a 20% increase in the rainfall in the valley.
What made this flood unprecedented was the scale of damage. If you look at the infrastructure damage that was caused because of 2014 floods, is unprecedented. And we can attribute it directly to the unplanned urbanization in the floodplains of Jhelum. Of course, for a flood, the trigger is always the extreme rainfall. So we had extreme rainfall for the 2014 floods also 1 week preceding to this, floods. But unplanned urbanization, the settlements that have come up in the floodplain on the left and right of the Jhelum.
Building mini dams on the tributaries of Jhelum is one of the ways the J&K government is hoping to make a difference. They even carried out some dredging work in the river earlier, but only in the dry spots.
Government doesn't seem to have a long-term policy, a long-term answer to either the urbanization or or the way this city is being planned, or the management that needs to be done so that these situations do not arise in future. And even if they arise, there is a backup that is readily available.
A similar story rings true in Mumbai. The widespread destruction of 2005 floods brought everyone's attention to the condition of Methi River. Once connected to the Arabian Sea, the river offered a means for water to pass through the city. Today, the river is better known as Methi Drain.
और जरी सी बारिश होती है आधा घंटा तो पूरे घर घर में पानी चला जाता है और पब्लिक क्या है बेचारी गरीब पब्लिक इधर की है अपना घर बार भी नहीं बनाती है आपको मालूम है कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम चालू है तो इसलिए पब्लिक काफ़ी परेशान है.
The city of Mumbai certainly has a great flood prediction and warning system. What the city fails to work upon is urban planning and infrastructure. The result, Mumbai grinds to a halt every monsoon.
जो सीख हमको लेनी चाहिए थी हमने नहीं ली है. उसके बाद ब्रिमस्टोवेट प्रकल्प आया था. उसके तहत ये था कि केंद्र शासन कुछ निधि मुहैया करेगा बीएमसी को और उससे ड्रेनेज सिस्टम को इम्प्रूव किया जाएगा. लेकिन जो निधि यूज किया हुआ है उससे आधे भी मुंबई का काम नहीं हुआ है. ड्रेनेज सिस्टम जो समुद्र की तरफ जाने वाली थी उसके लिए जो पंपिंग स्टेशन जितने तैयार करने चाहिए थे उसके 50% भी पंपिंग स्टेशन आज मुंबई में उपलब्ध नहीं है. जो मीठी नदी है या जो बहुत सारे रिवर्स है जो अब नाले में तब्दील हो चुके हैं उन रिवर्स की ओर से वो रिवर्स जो समुद्र में जाते हैं उनकी जो सफाई होनी चाहिए थी वो सफाई नहीं है. उस रिवर्स के ऊपर एनक्रोचमेंट किया हुआ है उसको अभी तक हटाया नहीं है. इसके बावजूद कि हाईकोर्ट का 2007 का ऑर्डर है कि ये एनक्रोचमेंट 2010 तक पूरी तरह से हटाया जाए.
The mangroves in Mumbai, which help share some burden of the excess flood waters, too are under a constant threat.
Mangroves play a very crucial role during a flood-like situation because their basic work is to absorb the extra water from river. But here in Mumbai, activists feel that the number of mangroves is getting decreased every year, and it is an alarming situation for a city like Mumbai.
What mangroves do is they slow down water. It's one thing to understand volume of water which causes damage, but also velocity of water. So it slows down the water. It kind of holds the water, and that's very unique. It prevents that erosion of that precious soil that in the estuary. It's also one of the most productive regions, ecologically speaking, one of the most productive belts anywhere in the world. So,
the city, which lives on real estate development, there are very few checks and balances to curb illegal encroachments, including those along the Methi River.
Mumbai has never acknowledged the Methi River to be a river. It's always been a nala, always, which is really sad because the Methi plays such a crucial role. 50 meters by 18 kilometers on both sides of the river has to remain free, unbuilt.
One of the key mantras of Prime Minister Modi has been rapid development and urbanization of India. But like they say, all best laid plans only work if they are really thought through.